so it's just half one. So I think we'll get started, guys. I see a few people online. So thank you, Patrick, Marcus, and Guskin for our presentation today at this week's Coffee Talk. So I'll pass it over to you guys.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Thanks. Well, thanks for inviting us here. And the talk today is about what we call Logistics-CMF. Okay. So we know that here in the IVI there has been tools working on maturity frameworks, and our idea was to see, okay, can we repeat the key success factors that we saw in the IT-CMF and apply this to logistics and supply chain. So, and what we saw as a key success factor was to offer something that goes beyond just, let's say, tools, and because we have a lot of matrix there, but gives something that looks at also supply chain value, business value, when I mean that, and also looking at skills, people, and how people can have this innovation mindset. And so that's basically what we're going to talk about here, what we're thinking. We're doing that with a few partners down here at the bottom of the slide. So let's move on and have a quick look. So the first thing that we looked at was what's going on today out there. What are the main questions that we have when we're talking about supply chain, logistics? And we just screened what was going on out there. And we find those 6 major trends or challenges taking place recently. So the first one is, a lot of them is about uncertainty, of course, wars that taking place, COVID. So people still are with a lot of questions about that. What happens when my supplier is not there? What happens if this country doesn't source products anymore? Still a lot of problems about human resources, HR, hiring people, especially after COVID. There was a pickup very quick one and people couldn't do anything. Cybersecurity down there, that's crucial as well. People start worrying more and more about that. We have contacts with companies telling us that, if I could have a framework just for that, would be great already. And of course, costs, as usual, with inflation coming up. And the usual new customers' expectations and ESG compliance. That's a trend that has been, all those last 3 ones are trends that have been gone and still continuing. So with that in mind, so we started thinking about, okay, now what can we offer here? And as we said, the main problem is those maturity frameworks do exist already. So you can go into the web, you find things where you can click and see where you are, but they don't talk really about, they don't connect as well with the current challenges, these challenges that we see today. And most of all, they tend to be very tool focused or technology focused, and they don't talk as much about people, organizational aspects, as we said before, and offer also concrete pathways for change. So very often when we click on those things, you find your level and you say, well, and so what? What do I do after that? So the idea is to say, can we offer something that really helps to promote change within companies? And so basically the supply chain manager can offer that to its teams, and the teams come back with ideas, projects, budgets, already done, rather than just knowing where they are. And that's the solution we propose. Okay, Logistics-CMF, based on leveraging on the skill that we had with the IT-CMF. Basically, and that's our research aim. Okay, we have defined already 4 macro capabilities: value creation, excellence in planning and execution, digitalization of processes, and culture of innovation. And so these are our main macro capabilities so far. Okay, this is still a work in progress. Managing logistics for value creation. This is all about what business value can logistics offer? What can we do? How can we be more creative in terms of the value that business offers? So it's all about thinking about, for example, not thinking just about logistics, but the life cycle of the product. Can we go beyond just what's going on within our company, but extend that beyond our company's border? That links with end-to-end visibility, knowing what's going on with my suppliers and connecting with suppliers for traceability of goods, for example, and also working on resilient logistics. If something happens, can we move on? So that's looking at the business value of logistics. Then the following two at the bottom are more traditional ones that we see in other frameworks. So on these ones, we'll be talking about managing, planning, execution, and typically all the predictive tools fall into this category. Okay, AI, ML, demand sensing, and then the third one, also a traditional one, will be managing logistics processes. So basically, it's the digitalization of processes and all the automation and robotization that goes with it. So it's really about technology there. And finally, the fourth one, the manage the culture of innovation in logistics. This one is a more transversal one, and that covers all those tools. And it's really about offering to the organization a culture where people are not afraid to innovate and bring new ideas in the supply chain department, and not being just executing. So really, okay, finding ideas, connecting the value creation with the tools that are needed for that. So really knowing what's going on out there, knowing the key challenges, okay, being aware of what are the key challenges for supply chains, and being able to identify the right technology that will solve these challenges and innovate around that. Okay, so that's really what we think is crucial to help developing within companies. And this is basically, here we have just a short description of those four capabilities. We don't need to go in much detail, but basically there we are. Okay, managing logistics for value creation would be about leverage logistics and the resulting data that we collect as a form of additional value creation. Okay. And that will involve supply chain partners. Now, if, for example, if I talk about the life cycle of products, it involves talking to partners and clients. Then the second one, data-driven planning and execution, will be to be able to integrate and perform planning and execution activities. Okay, so really about decision-making. How can I make good decision-making within my process with structured and sometimes unstructured data? Logistics processes is about optimized, digitalized processes, as discussed, and going up to self-control logistics, hopefully. And the last one is the ability of a company to and its employees to have awareness of what's going on, strength of digital innovation and supply chain management. So really, these are the four pillars that we see. And these four, the first one and the last one are really something that we think bring difference to what exists out there. And basically, this is our framework as it is now, okay, with our four market capabilities and 5 different maturity levels. Okay, so we don't need to, I suppose, go into detail, but basically that's what we are managing today. Now, disruptive innovation, you can see the top one here for the culture on the right. No, we don't manage innovation at all, or we have a culture of disruptive innovation, right? For logistics, I can go to the bottom, value creation. If we're at the bottom, logistics doesn't do anything. If we are at the top, no, logistics really contributes to the business model and offers service innovation. So that's the first element, those new capabilities that we want to add. And the second one is how to make this operational and make this really happen within companies. So we want to have companies that use this framework and then are able to move on by themselves and know where to look for help. And really, we want to offer for each one of those market capabilities and for the different critical processes, really the right documents and artifacts that will help them to move forward and give them the strength, okay, and the knowledge to really progress into carrying out the next, basically what to do now. I am at this level, where do I go now? And so we will offer templates, documents, telling them, okay, you have to carry out the project. That's how you budget the product. That's how that's how many resources you might need to do that, and move on with this, with these tools. And that's another example here. This is again based on the IT-CMF. Okay, so it's really leverage on these skills of the different outputs that we want to provide, and deliverables that we want to offer to these companies when they finalize their assessment. We have then a few examples here. Gotha, do you want to give a discussion about the examples you have added there?
Yes, sure. Thanks, Patrick.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, so So we actually identified several use cases for different maturity level expressions. And to begin with, we could see that Walmart, as we know, the biggest retailer in the world, they actually utilize their complex and sophisticated infrastructure, as in their, fulfillment processes, etc., which is huge at a certain level, so they can actually introduce a new business model. It's actually a service innovation from a service point of view, and it effectively established a new revenue for Walmart. So basically, the idea is to provide their delivery platforms, their infrastructure to smaller groups of customers, such as small companies who want to utilize these efficiencies, etc. And they market this as a white label business model. So that means those customers can use their own labels to brand these services for themselves. And it effectively gives them new revenue streams and establish again like a new pillar in their competitiveness. And also in the next example, the next slide, we see sort of innovation in terms of planning, data-driven planning and execution. So this is an example from Flex Industries. Flex Pulse is a concept. This is basically an integrated, highly digitalized monitoring platform, which incorporates the supply chain variables, not only from a national point of view, but also from an international global point of view. And it aggregates flows, material flows, in real time, and allows them while considering additional variables to predict what will happen if we move this flows here, etc. And the next one is a similar one, but this one addresses the concept of elastic logistics. So elastic logistics is a term which is already widely known, and basically it's can be put under the umbrella of agile SCM. So this is an approach that allows a company to be flexible in adjusting and downsizing, or in expanding their capabilities to meet a supply chain change in the environment. Next one. This is looking at the processes pillar. So this is an example. So when you see one of the images below, bottom left, so this is an automated car, so self-driving, autonomous, self-controlled robot that is capable to improve efficiencies in a warehouse setting. So this can be, as you can see, positioned in as a maturity level, which is currently labeled as partly digitalized, automated, and integrated. So there's still a manual element in this, but as Patrick was mentioning, so this all depends on the context of where I want to go with my maturity level. So for some company, this might be the ideal. So it would be the best approach to keep. And for other companies, it might be just an alternative. And the best option would be a bit higher, actually. So, and last but not least, the last slide. Yes, so concerning the innovative capability within the logistics and SCM context. So DHL, for example, that what we would consider as a pioneering approach. They really establish this mindset of being innovative and having a holistic view on their SCM infrastructure and workflows, etc. So that it helps them actually in moments of crisis to relocate workforces all around the group, etc., as we see here based on the quotes from supply chain senior vice president. And they also established what we also would consider as an element of culture and an innovativeness, an internal social network application, which connects basically all employees within the organization. So these are some examples. We actually, there are many more, of course. And the idea is to to pinpoint each maturity level with characteristics, so that we can actually establish a certain understanding of, so what does good look like relative to where you are. So this is, this was what best practices are concerned.
Okay, thanks, Guter Kane. And just, well, to finish, we're going to wrap up with that. Okay, so these are our partners that we are working with. So we're not doing this on our own. We are, of course, inviting people to provide feedback. Okay, we have already received a few, and we're happy to discuss, get ideas, or from where we should bring that to, what direction, the adjustments to do. We're very happy to get feedback about that. And I think to finish, we'll to collect more feedback. We'll be presenting at the National Manufacturing Supply Chain Exhibition that will take place in the RDS May 3rd, 24th, and so that's a great opportunity for us to see people. So if you are available, come and talk to us there as well. And I think that will be all for what we have to present, and we can probably open the talk now.
Absolutely, yeah.
If you just go back to the partners as well, that slide. So I think that's also a unique opportunity where we work with the partners within IVI and partners together on co-creating that Logistics-CMF capability framework. And I think an important parameter about all what we do in the Innovation Value Institute is to guide and help organizations to avail of the digital opportunities. So really helping them, and so the framework is not just a description of, okay, these are kind of things what we should look out for. It's really as a tool to help to mature in digital. And that's why all these macro capabilities, these views are so important within that. And then basically, I think what we do, and also with the partners, what you see here on is when we started to discuss the framework, we said so we looked at the frameworks which are existing at the moment. We also we have our capability maturity framework in IVI. We can avail of, first of all, the engagement methodology, what we have, co-creation, so bringing all the expertise together, also the structure to it. But what we realized, there needs to be additions to it, the particular culture, and also that value creation element on it. And also, I think with logistics, we moved from an organizational perspective to maybe more an ecosystem, to value streams, to really bringing the various things together. And that's where basically there's a need for revision on it. So, and this is kind of the first bring it together, but of course, we would really like to co-create, refine in that way to help organizations. So, and we are open to comments, questions, and so that's the idea of the coffee talks as well, to really discuss this. And so from the group which we are working together, we see a need for this. We are not there yet to have the framework completely finished. We are ongoing. But that's why common suggestions are really important. But what even the case studies, what Gültekin presented, that they show the need for something like this for the framework. And if you are interested in it, I don't know if you had the email address on it, but just contact IVI and we can channel that, and then we within the work group and actively collaborate. So.
I can start with thanks Patrick, Gültekin, Marcus for the interesting presentation. I understand that of course is being developed the framework, but because of the use cases that are quite wide, also in different because of the different problems and challenges that they present, I want to understand how you are going to measure, to evaluate, and if you are going to kind of also focus on some prioritizing some aspect rather than others, because also the risk is that of course the framework that even if for macro capabilities already covering a lot, and so the fact that then you want to, because you said Patrick that you want to move from one level, you want to show how to move from one level to another. So are you going kind of focus, okay, this is the priorities that you should address first, and then these others, and so are you going, so the question is, are you going to apply the framework in practice when you have developed also in the way that is really?
Oh yeah, well, that's the idea, sure.
No, how you going, and if you are creating priorities, what are the challenges that you can already envision when you're going to apply in practice that framework?
Well, there are two things. We are also on that matter market-led. because we have identified a few challenges, and as we discussed now up there in the beginning, and it is true that we may decide to put more emphasis on one or another, and we are now working, let's say, on a generic basis. We are working on, let's say, the two main components central. They are kind of traditional, tools and digitalization. Don't change much, but we are indeed at the moment focusing on all these, but we're listening to feedback and try to get a sense of, okay, which one of these challenges should be the one that maybe lead more the framework. And this is something we're still working on. So I received feedback, as I said, about cybersecurity, something that someone said, no, that's already something interesting. So we could start with a focus on one and then broaden it. But at the moment, they're working really on something that's remain generic, addresses all the different challenges, and if need come, we may decide to focus on one. But I would say more market driven on that aspect.
And basically, generally, I think with the inflation now, costs are an important topic. And that's why the opportunity with digitalization can reduce costs in supply chain management. And the second one is all the skills, talent on various levels. And I think this is important, and how we apply this as well. So yes, it's a comprehensive framework. We try to incorporate it, but we don't need to develop all the components in it. So we of course avail of many other supply chain management maturity frameworks, and the transformation path. So helping organization along the journey of digital transformation. That's a key aspect of this framework and the approach what we have. So it's not a statical maturity framework. This is how it should be. It's a guidance framework along a digital transformation path.
Maybe I have a comment as well.
Yeah.
I think this slide is very good because with this, everybody could position their research, what they are doing into this, and seeing that what are the possibilities in terms of collaborating and being involved in this project. That's the first thing. And then the second thing, I think the exception that you mentioned in RDS is a very good opportunity. If the researchers, they are attending over there, because we had this experience since years ago, and we have been very successful in attracting more industry partners into the project. When the researcher with their expertise, they are there and just going exactly to the specific points and saying that we have the expertise and this is the framework that we already have, then there would be a very good opportunity to have collaboration, inviting more industry partners to the project.
Yeah. And the interesting thing when we have these industry partners then, so how good looks like. So what is actually the top level if we basically combine various parts together, how to help organizations which are not there, how to help them along the digital transformation journey. And I think what showed was also like if you have a reasonable group together, active members basically, who contribute with their expertise, knowledge, suggestions to it, then it really works to create such a framework and digital transformation paths.
Yeah, comments if I can. Firstly, yeah, from an industry perspective, yeah, I see the need, right? And the challenges resonate, right? So cybersecurity, the ESG definitely, I think is, I put that up there and coming closely there. And for me, it's not mentioned as a challenge specifically, but it's kind of mentioned in your themes, I think, and your categories, resilience, right? So
it's under managing uncertainty.
Yeah. I think that's right up there, and it's resilience from a operational resilience, digital operational resilience perspective, but also what I might call commercial resilience. So not being locked into a single supplier, the ability to replace as needed.
Yeah,
I think
that's the first one actually that came up. That I mean, somehow this order is also the new things are on the left, and the more traditional ones are more on the right side. But yeah, managing uncertainty is really what came first. The other ones were traditional that keep growing. Cost, as you mentioned, also is appearing a lot, but it's just not. Yeah, it's always been there. Yeah, it's just more critical. But uncertainty is definitely something that came up. People don't want to take risks anymore.
The kind of the question I had, I think it was really where you touched on there at the end, Marcus, was like does this apply in a kind of I suppose maybe a non-traditional sort of supply chain, so purely digital supply chain ecosystem, with tech providers, data providers, cloud providers? Are you applying your use cases felt more traditional logistics to me, I guess maybe than digital ecosystem as a supply chain.
Yeah, and like digital ecosystem, so it's certainly also like the traditional, like the operational part of logistics. So that's where we started with. But I think also when we then looking at a higher maturity level, we actually move into just more like a digital and a traditional supply chain. So we're not talking about just like what a data supply chain, but of course data driven, and the supply chain itself changes actually quite significantly when we put a data or digital lens on it.
And the challenge, you might get different emphasis on the challenges depending on how digital the supply chain is.
Yes,
right?
and depending on the industry as well.
Yeah. Important in the digital supply chain.
Yes, and on which maturity level they are. And that's why, so kind of emphasizing it's not a static maturity model, it's basically a guidance. So it depends from the starting point, maturity level, also the context of the supply chain, the partners, so within that ecosystem. And of course, that framework should actually help to improve, addresses some of these challenges.
Very good.
I have a question. So like the contents of the maturity framework, does it differs for companies in the value chain, or is it like kind of like static for like the entire thing?
Maybe Gültekin did the case studies. He can maybe, I don't know if you want to jump in there, Gültekin.
Yes, I think I mentioned that briefly when I was talking about the shopping cart. So, so as you, Marcus, you were explaining, so this is a pretty much dynamic thing. So there's a roadmap, and we're just not looking at a certain situation. We're actually providing guidance where to move to, from where. And this is based on, from my understanding, based on agreement, right? So when we deploy these services at some stage, and not every company wants to be at the highest maturity, or it makes sense for those companies to be at the highest maturity levels. So depending on the context, as you were saying, so it might be already very beneficial from, I don't know, from strategic, from operational, even just from the skill set perspective, to look at this maturity level in the next 3 years. And within the next 3 years, everything can change again. And a new kind of technologies can emerge, new achievements for, I don't know, different things in different aspects. So that's part of it. Basically, we're looking at it from a contextual perspective on those levels, I would say. So not as a static filter or a template, you're here, this is where you need to go. No, it's dynamic, and we look at, yes, it makes sense to go here to level 4 for you within the next 2 years.
Like it's actually, that's an important point, so that the framework itself is a living document based on industry needs and on opportunities with technologies, happens all the time, and new solutions to technologies, and then the framework might change in itself actually as well. So yeah.
Excellent.
Just to me, the ESG compliance, that is a very new aspect, very important, that applies now to all fields, of course, not to the is one of the probably also the most strategic, because of course it applies in all guidelines or
they're everywhere, and the most
more important.
Yeah, the most critical about the ESG compliance, and now the regulators are assuming that you have all the data to manage that.
Exactly.
So regulators are assuming that you have all the information system needed to manage that ESG compliance. And so that's the difference from before. On the past, people knew that you couldn't manage it. And so the regulation, now they're assuming that you know that you can manage that. And so, it is coming quickly.
Yeah.
But I think any of those challenges could be transplanted to any industry. Probably the top 6 for most industries.
Oh, yeah.
True.
Good.
Yeah, but but that's exactly showing its peculiarity in this. So as Marco was saying, everything, so it's not like just logistics anymore. It's when we're looking at it from an ecosystem perspective, everything is connected. You can You might look at from a logistics perspective that will very be confined. You need to look at from a high level supply chain perspective within this framework, right? So that's what you just Paul said. That's exactly basically is a benefit out of it. So we can actually relate those capabilities to other industries, because at some stage you need to look from a network perspective.
You could probably apply it equally to your distribution chain. I don't know whether you include that in the scope here, but the same principles apply on the distribution chain.
Yeah. Exactly.
Very good. So I think we'll have to leave it there, guys. It's just 2 o'clock. If there's no other comments, but if there is, please do get in touch with us here at IVI, info@ivi.ie, or Patrick, or we can connect you to Patrick or Marcus or go to them with questions. So thank you all very much for joining, and please do, if you have time, join us next week where we discuss collaborative opportunities in IVI. So we hope to talk to everyone then.